Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. It is time to talk about our February reads. I don't know about you, but I don't know what was in the air in February, but I had a spectacular reading month. And I'm so happy because January was like a little bit rough with like reading and everything going on. But this month, so many bangers after bangers after bangers. Like I had some new favorite books, some new 5-star reads, and 0 DNFs. Call that a win because I will literally DNF any book that I don't like. And our lowest rated book was probably, I think, only 3 stars, which is honestly not too bad. We all read 16 books, which honestly, pretty good in my opinion, considering there was only 28 days in February and 16 books. I also read 6,530 pages. I did have 75% were physical books, which were all off of my TBR, and 25% were digital, and I just read those on my Kindle. The genre breakdown, kind of alarming because as you can tell, I'm a fantasy girly. Why was romance the top genre? We had 8 romance, 7 fantasy, 4 sci-fi, 4 contemporary, 2 dystopian, 2 classics, 1 speculative fiction, 1 queer book, and 1 historical. We are going to get into it because we do have 16 books to talk about. We got a lot to get through. So we are going to go from my least favorite to my most favorite just to make it a little more interesting. So the book that I rated 3 stars was Play to Win by Jodie Slaughter. This is the same author that wrote Bet on It. I think I gave that book either 4 or 4.5 stars. I adored that one. That one was so good. This one really disappointed me in some aspects. I did really like some parts, but some other parts were just like okay for me. So in this book, we follow our main character. Her life is going nowhere. She's like stuck at home, basically trying to meet ends with the jobs that she has. Also has an estranged husband that she has not seen in like 7 or 8 years. Something happened that you don't know about. You find out later. And basically she ends up getting this lottery card and she's not expecting to win. It's her first one that she's got in basically forever. She ends up winning the lottery and gaining so much money. But with that comes a lot of like legal ramifications. So like, because she's married, obviously. Her estranged husband that she has not spoken to could basically sue her and be like, okay, you need to give me my share of the money. So she needs to get in contact with him. So her plan is to get in contact with him and file the divorce papers. And then they end up meeting for the first time in 7 or 8 years. Things start coming up, the feelings start to get brought up again. It's this whole thing. My problem with this was I do really like marriage and crisis books, and that's kind of what this was. But my problem is, where was the groveling? Where was the groveling? I felt like what he did, his whole story about what happened and why they didn't speak for so long, didn't match up to what he was doing in this. Like, I needed more of him on his hands and knees begging for her forgiveness. Like, I felt like we didn't get that. All not bad, but like, it could have just been so much better. Next was Blood Beneath the Snow by Alexandra Kennington, and this is a romantasy book. Now, romantasy books are such a hit or miss for me. I either like love them or I absolutely despise them. This one was kind of like in the middle for me. I felt like it was good in some aspects, but some aspects I felt like we were missing some things that I also feel in most romantasy books. A rebellious princess who must fight her brothers to the death while also battling her feelings for her country's most powerful enemy. She starts being like, maybe he isn't so bad that I think he is, stuff like that. Things get uncovered. I did really enjoy the whole like relationship development. I thought that was pretty good. Like, there were some parts where I was like, okay girl, you just met this man, I felt like the trials should have happened a lot earlier, but honestly I did really enjoy the ending and I'm kind of intrigued to see where this goes. Next was I Got Abducted by Aliens and Now I'm Trapped in a Rom-Com by Kimberly Lemming. I love Kimberly Lemming's books. I think they are the perfect palate cleansers between like any sort of like serious book you're reading or any sort of chunky book, because these so fast paced, so funny, and it's just so outrageous in like the best way possible. I gave this 3.5 out of 5 stars. I had the best time. Like honestly, I can't even complain. So in this book, we follow our main character and she ends up being abducted by aliens and then goes to this like Earth adjacent world where things aren't really right. She sees pink dinosaurs. She sees hot aliens who basically just want to fuck her and everything like that. It is just so fucking funny. I love the way Kimberly Lemming writes great characters. Like the way that they interact with each other is hilarious. Like there's nothing I can say other than this was funny. This was such a fun time. And they're just so unique and just so batshit crazy in the best way possible. I will read anything this woman writes. This was Those Beyond the Wall by Micaiah Johnson. I ended up giving this one 3.75 4.25 out of 5 stars. This is the sequel and the follow-up to The Space Between Worlds, which I gave 4.5 stars. So I was a little bit disappointed in this one because it didn't give me the same feelings that I felt while reading the first one. But anyways, we are following new characters. This is a sci-fi thriller by Scales, who you do meet in the first one. And I do like that you get to see her story because I honestly really enjoyed her character. Her character was really, really fun. So she's basically a skilled mechanic and a skilled fighter. She's part of the Emperor's crew and everything like that. When a woman is mangled and killed before her eyes, there doesn't seem to be a murderer. They're all like, how did this happen? Everything like that. They're like, how the fuck did she just die right in front of her eyes? It really talks about the complexities of being from one place but not feeling like you belong, working in the other one but not feeling like you belong. There's a lot of topics about that, and I really, really love that. I was a little bit bored in some parts. I felt like some parts could have been like explained a little bit better, and I just love the way that Micaiah Johnson writes, the way that she writes in first person, which is not my typical like favorite standard of writing, but like the way that she writes is so interesting. It's like the person is telling their story but also not at the same time. It's just so cool. Next was Swordcatcher by Cassandra Clare. I gave this 3.75 as well. This book, okay, the prologue was literally like almost 40 pages. That was unnecessary. That really threw me for a loop. I'm like, Cassandra Clare, come on now. What is going on? But I understood the importance the more we got in, but I'm like, damn. So basically in this book, we have this vibrant city, this like rich city, and we have the prince, one who's like an heir to like the throne. The prince needs a sword catcher, which becomes Kel. So Kel is an orphan. He is taken to the palace to basically become the sword catcher. He goes in place if there's any danger. He tends to be the prince if needed. He basically talks the same, acts the same, even looks the same. Like, it's actually crazy. And then we also follow Lynn Castor. She's a healer and she has some magical abilities, and she's trying to find like forbidden magic to help save her best friend. They get tangled in this web of political intrigue, longing, and yearning. Okay, I didn't know who the romance was going to be between when I started this, but the longing and yearning made this book for me. Like, I love the tension, the ballroom dances tension, the looking at each other from across the room, knowing that you cannot have each other, but wanting each other so bad. Unmatched. Next was Emily Wilde's Map of the Other Lands. This is the second book in the Emily Wilde series by Heather Fawcett. This one, I was a little bit disappointed because I adored the first book, Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. I thought that was so well done. This one let me down a little bit. The mysterious fairies from other realms appear at her university. Professor Emily Wilde must uncover their secrets before it's too late. There were some characters in this that I wasn't really a fan of. Like, they were just like okay to me. I was kind of annoyed anytime that they popped up. And I really loved the relationship between Emily and Wendell, though. The way that their relationship developed, I love them so much. They're so cute. The way they talk and interact is just so funny, but in the best way possible. The third one, I do really have high hopes for, but I don't want to say goodbye to my babies, Emily and Wendell, because they're so cute. Another book I also gave 4 stars was Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler. This was a reread for me because I had the second book on my TBR that I had not read yet. This book, so much better than I remember it being. There's basically this global and climate crisis in the early 2020s. If there's a book you need to read right now, it is this one, because they were talking about February 2025 and I was like, this is hitting a little bit too close to home. But like, honestly, it was so necessary, so needed. How did Octavia E. Butler know what we were gonna go through? Like, almost, obviously not exactly, but like almost, with like all the climate shit and everything. I'm like, wow, this girl's a literal genius. She wants to make her voice heard in this community, so she starts to birth this new like way of thinking and this new religion called Earthsea. Such an interesting way. It's all about like God is changed. Like, God is there for you, but it is changed. A lot of death. There's a lot of talk of slavery and everything like that. Some scenes are so brutal in like such a needed way, though, because there's some things that you cannot shy away. Octavia E. Butler does not shy away from that. I really adore this one. I think this is a must and important read. Next book that I gave 4.25 stars was 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. This is how you write a romance book with such great characters, such great depth and everything. Like, I thought this was so good and definitely lived up to the hype. Like, I love this one. So basically in this book, we follow 2 writers, and basically they used to know each other for like 1 week. They were like madly in love when they were in high school, spent every day together, all their time together. But since that day, they have not seen each other. They're 2 writers of 2 different genres. Anyways, they've been both secretly, nobody else knows but them, writing to each other through their books because they know that the other person will read their book. They've been writing little messages and writing books about the other person through their books. That's not peak romance. I don't know what is, because that was, oh my god, I was like, this is so fucking funny, but like I would die if somebody did that to me. Like I would literally die, drop dead. They have not seen each other for ages. They end up meeting up and then rekindling what they had when they were in high school. I did only end up giving this a 4.25, a little bit more communication on some parts. I do think things were done pretty well overall. Overall, I really enjoyed this one. Other book I gave 4.25, Nightcrawling by Layla Motley. This is outside of my normal typical genres. This is a lit fic contemporary book, but this was such a heartbreaking but devastatingly important read. Like the topics and themes in this book do not take lightly. Please look up your trigger warnings and everything, because it goes through such hard topics and so many things. So in this book we follow a main character and basically her struggle for body and soul. She's been living in this apartment trying to make ends meet, everything like that. Her brother is not really any help, and she starts to basically go out on the streets. And after she's been nightcrawling, she ends up facing and being in this investigation after this like mistake, because her name is somewhere, gets thrown in somewhere. She's thrown into this world that she like did not want to be a part of. So vulnerable, so heartbreaking, such a devastatingly important read. Like this book will stick with me for a long time, and I think Layla Motley is coming out with another book this year, and I'm really intrigued to pick that one up as well. Next was First Time Caller by BK Borison. I gave this 4.5 out of 5 stars. This one was so good. It's inspired by Sleepless in Seattle. This book, I did read Love Light Farms when it was indie published by this author. I didn't really enjoy that, but I am really interested to read that again now that it's traditionally published. There are two main characters, Aiden and Lucy. Aiden has this like radio like gig, and basically he is Aiden Valentine. People call him about love and about everything like that, and for advice and everything. And Lucy is a single mom, you know, she's just going through life. Lucy has a child, and Lucy's child calls Aiden being like, hey, my mom needs help. She is sad, she's depressed, she has not been on a date in ages. And then him and Lucy end up talking on the phone together because Lucy catches her child calling Aiden. And then this like interview, this like little thing ends up going viral, and then Lucy becomes like a little star on Aiden's show. And then the forced proximity of compartment of his car, the way that he wrote all of her favorite things down so he would not forget them, insane. Like I had so much fun with this. I binged this in under 24 hours. Obsessed with the characters, obsessed with the story. Like the way that they just worked their way into my heart. I adored this one. Highly recommend this romance book. Like it gave me all the feels. I was sobbing, I was screaming, I was crying, I was literally doing, oh my god, so good. Another book that I also gave 4.5 stars was Kindred by Octavia E. Butler. This book literally had me staring at a wall for hours because I was like, what the fuck just happened? Hello, Dana, and Dana is a black woman in the 20th century, but suddenly she ends up like getting this dizzy spell, and it's basically transported from her life in California all the way back through time to antebellum South to basically save this person that she doesn't know who he is. And she's like, what the fuck is going on? So then she ends up going back, and she's like, okay, you know, that was weird, that happened. But then it starts happening again and again and again. The more times that she goes, the longer each stay gets. So she ends up being like years, months on end, but in reality, in like the normal time in California, it's only been a few hours. So it's so weird, so fucking mind fucking, but like so good. We also have topics around the brutal legacy of slavery, racism, white supremacy. Literally everything is like, I was like feeling everything with Dana, like, and everything like that. This book was phenomenal. The characters were amazing. Everything about this was just so informative, incredible, and like literally from the beginning to the end, hooked, could not put it down. I was flying through these pages, and like I was so scared for her, but I was also like, oh my fucking god, this is actually literally insane. Like I need everybody to pick this one up. If you have not read it yet, it is an absolute must read. Next were the first two books in the Bloodsworn Saga by John Gwynne. It is the Shadow of the Gods and the Hunger of the Gods. I gave this one, the Shadow of the Gods, 4.5, and this one 5 stars. The way that you have to be such a talented writer to make a really, really good first book, but then following it up with a very, very good, even better second book, insane. Like the way that these characters literally work their way into my heart. I'm obsessed with these. So in the Shadow of the Gods, it is a Norse mythology inspired story. It has vengeance, it has bloodthirsty main characters. It is phenomenal. We have a mother out for revenge and vengeance. We also have this other main character who wants battle fame. Then we have another character who basically wants to leave his life as a thrall, which is a slave or a servant, to basically pursue being part of the Bloodsworn, which is this like elite group who all have like different abilities and everything. It is just so well done. I absolutely adore these characters. The world is so imaginative and vivid. We have gods, we have dragons, we have epic battles and fight scenes that were actually really good. It's so much fun. Like, I'm so excited, but also really scared for the last installment in the series, The Fury of the Gods. That's the only one left that I have to read, and I've heard good things about it, but also some not so good things about it. But honestly, I think I'll really enjoy it because I just love these characters. Like, at the end of the day, all of these characters are so compelling and absolutely incredible. My next 5-star read was The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. I adored everything about this book. This is the queer found family cozy sci-fi book that I didn't know that I needed more of. This was so good. This is my first Becky Chambers book that I've read. I cannot believe that because everybody's been telling me to read Becky Chambers for so long, but this will not be my last because I adored everything about this. In this book, we follow Rosemary, and she is the newest crew member of Wayfarer, and basically it is a little ratty old ship with a bunch of different interesting characters. We have a bunch of different species on the ship. They have such different personalities. It is just really funny how they clash and how they mesh together really well until they get offered a job of a lifetime where they have a chance to build a hyperspace tunnel to a distant planet, and they'll earn enough money to live comfortably for years if they survive the long trip through this like war range like area. It is really good. What I really loved about this was the variety of the characters. Like, they were all so funny. I love them all. They all have such various like different personalities, and they were just hilarious. I love the way they interacted with each other, and I loved how Rosemary started slowly becoming like more integrated into their little family. It was so good, and this is part of like a 4-book like interconnected standalone series. So I have the second book on my TBR. Really hoping to read in March because I adore this one. I need more Becky Chambers books. Now I will read anything that she writes. Last 2 5-star reads and my favorite reads of the month were The Elements of Cadence duology by Rebecca Ross. We have a River Enchanted and a Fire Endless. I reread this. I read this first a few years ago. I really loved it, but I never got a chance to pick up the sequel. But I reread this to read the sequel, and I forgot how much I love this world, how I love the characters. These books are so devastatingly romantic and magical and whimsical and just amazing. Like, they're literally so good. In this book, we follow Jack, and Jack basically left his little island so long ago. He's like, I'm done with that. He has been on the mainland for years, like I think 10 years now. He has not been back to his home in 10 years. He's trying to become a bard. He's at the university, everything like that. But then he gets this mysterious note. You need to come back immediately. Like, we need your help. So he's like, okay, I'll come back. So then he ends up going back. He finds out that the note was actually written by his childhood rival, and she needs him basically because all these little girls on the island are going missing, and they don't know what's happening with them. They're just mysteriously disappearing. Basically, it becomes this whole little like mystery component, but also with like music and such magical characters. Like, I think these books are just so good. What I also really loved about these was the romance. So in this book, we follow like different perspectives, but one of them is like the childhood rivals to lovers like romance thing. That's one of them. But then we also have another romance, which is like a marriage in crisis, and they are so good. Like, I love like how the way that their like relationship developed slowly throughout this book and then this book as well. I honestly, like, I was like sobbing and like reading these books. They're just so good, so magical, and I just love the way that Rebecca Ross writes like vivid descriptions and like character relationships and everything like that. Like, they are just phenomenal. And those were the 16 books that I read in February. We had a great month. I really hope that March will also be great as well. Please comment your favorite book that you read in February because I'm always looking for some more recommendations. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.